These are the best decks for free-to-play players in Clash Royale, and today I will be revealing them all. By the end of this video, you will understand what the deck is, how to play it, as well as some tips for every deck. At number 10 is Giant Double Prince. This is a very aggressive deck that's also fun to play. For offense, the Giant and Double Prince combo can be so deadly, and you will take towers in an instant. Pair that with a Rage or a Lightning and opponents won't know what to do. For defense, both the princes can deal with nearly anything thanks to their high damage and health. In the early game, don't go for anything too special because you won't have enough elixir. In double elixir, place the giant at the back to start a push. Then follow up with your princes and bomber if you want to. Always have your spells ready every time you push. Players won't know what to do, and you will take towers. The first tip is, don't rush the giant early. In single elixir, focus on defending and learning your opponent's counters before committing to a big push. The second tip is, be patient. This deck wins by building 1 or 2 massive pushes, not from constant pressure. At number 9 we have Minor Mortar Bait. This deck is probably the most free-to-play friendly, but it's still so strong. The Skeleton Army, Dart Goblin, and Minions are all bait cards, so keep spamming them at your opponent. The Miner is such a versatile card in this deck. He can chip away at towers, tank for smaller units, or help break through defenses. In the early game, keep chipping away at the tower with your Miner and Swarms. When it hits double elixir, then you can start playing aggressive with your Mortar. The Cannon Cart, Knight and Mortar all provide stability on defense, so it's not just a bait deck. In the late game, keep pushing with your Miner, Mortar, and you swarm cards, and you will eventually break through. The first tip is to keep pressuring, not overcommitting. This deck wins by constant small pressure, not one all-in push. Force responses, then punish mistakes. The second tip is to use the Mortar on offense and defense. Don't tunnel vision on offensive mortars. Using Mortar defensively to stop win conditions is often the correct play. At number 8, we have Minor Loon Cycle. This is a high-skill deck that can outplay any matchup if played well. To get damage on the tower, you need to outcycle your opponent's counters and make good predictions. Use the Miner or Ice Golem to tank while the balloon gets on the tower. Or you can use the Miner on defenses, clearing the path for your balloon. For defense, you have some great options. Use the Ice Golem or Skeletons to tank, while the Musketeer or Bomb Tower does the damage. Make sure to space out your units, or your opponent will get big spell value. The first tip is don't rush with your balloon in single elixir. Don't just play your balloon at any time, because it can easily be defended. Wait for the right time, then use it when their counters are out of cycle. The second tip is to defend first, then counter push. It's best to let your opponent overcommit, then defend cheaply and swing back with your balloon and support cards. At number 7, we have Giant Graveyard. This is a very aggressive deck that relies on the Giant Graveyard combo to deal damage. For defense, the Bowler is your main unit since he has high health and he does splash damage. The Witch, this also a great card since she attacks ground and air and she supports the Giant well. Pair her with the Bowler and Guards and you have an unbreakable defense. Play passive in single elixir, then place your Giant at the back in double. Follow up with your Witch and Graveyard. The only real counter to this are Swarms, which is where your spells come in. Use your arrows and snowball to eliminate any defenses, allowing your push to break through. The first tip is only place your Graveyard when your Giant is tanking. Placing your Graveyard without a Giant will hit your chances of the Graveyard getting any damage, and it will be much easier to defend. The second tip is to never push in single elixir. A Giant Graveyard combo is 10 elixir, so pushing with it early will drain your entire elixir bar, leaving you with nothing to defend a counter push. At number 6, we have Hog Executioner Tornado. This deck only has one legendary, so it's very easy to upgrade. The Executioner is one of the best defensive cards in Clash Royale, and pair him with a Valkyrie, and you have the ultimate defense. Unlike other Hog decks, this is a control deck, not a spammy deck. Throughout the game, keep using the Hog Rider at the bridge to get consistent damage, and defend cheaply with your control cards and goblins. In the late game tryout cycle, your opponent's counters to your Hog so it can get hits on the tower. The first tip is to use the Tornado on offense. Many players think the tornado is only for king tower activations, but it's also for clumping troops up for your splash cards, and even pulling defenses ways from your hog. The second tip is always save your executioner on defense, since he is your only air unit and your main defense. Not having him in cycle when facing a big push can lose you the game. Number 5 is 3 musketeers. If you can get to double elixir with this deck, you will almost always win the game. The combo of 3 musketeers, royal hogs and royal ghost is unstoppable and opponents won't know what to do. You can push in single elixir, but don't overcommit, otherwise you will get punished. Instead, play passive and figure out cards your opponent has to counter your push. When it hits double elixir, place the 3 musketeers at the back, then split the hogs and go your ghost or knight at the bridge. The first tip is to pressure both lanes. If you stack your entire push in a single lane, you are giving massive spell value to your opponent, and they can wipe out your whole push in an instant. The second mistake is similar, and it's to track their spells. By keeping track of their spells, you can identify when to push or when to play passive. This is especially important with cards like the Hogs and 3 Musketeers, which die to spells easily. At number 4, we have 3.0 X-Bow Cycle. This is another high-skill deck that can win against any matchup. The goal with X-Bow Cycle isn't to overwhelm them, it's to out-defend them and chip away at their tower. The Knight is your only tank, so don't waste him unnecessarily. In the early gameplay, passive. Don't push at all, and just identify any counters to your X-Bow. In double elixir, you can start playing more aggressive with the X-Bow, but only after you know their counters. Make sure to protect it as best you can with the Knight Archers and Tesla. If you can make some outplays, you will always break through. The first tip is to spell cycle if you need to. In close games, it may be impossible to get your X-Bow on the tower. If this is the case, just accept that and chip their tower with the fireball and log. The second tip is to never play aggressive in single elixir even when you are up elixir. This is because you won't have enough elixir to support the X-How properly, and your opponent can defend it, easily causing you to lose elixir. At number 3, we have Skeleton Barrel Bait. The goal with this deck is simple. Bait out a small spell with your bait cards, then push with your Skeleton Barrel and Wall Breakers. The Rascals are your big unit, so save them for other big units. The Bomb Tower is a solid card in this deck because it gets many positive elixir trades, allowing you to play aggressive. In double elixir, place your Rascals at the back to start the chaos, then spam everything you have at your opponent. If that wasn't enough, you have the Vines to freeze defenses, allowing for more damage. The first tip is to never use the Skeleton Barrel and Wall Breakers together. This will give your opponent easy value, so split them differently to force separate responses from your opponent. The second tip is to track their small spell at all times. The moment Log, Arrows or Barbarian Barrel is out of cycle is when this deck wins games. At number 2 is Hog Ride Earthquake. This deck is great to upgrade because the Hog Rider is the most consistent win condition in Clash Royale. This deck does have the Mighty Miner, but if you don't have him upgraded, you can always use the Knight or Valkyrie. Keep pushing with your Hog Rider and Earthquake to get consistent damage and use the Firecracker at the bridge for chip damage. The Mighty Miner is your main defensive unit since he deals with all the big tanks you will face. In the late game, keep pushing with your Hog and Earthquake and you will eventually break through. The first tip is to outcycle, not force. The goal of any cycle deck is to outcycle counters to your win condition. By doing this, it will make it easier to break through and you will deal more damage. The second tip is to defend as cheap as possible. This deck is all about spamming Hogs and Firecrackers, so defending cheaply with Save Your Elixir for the counter push. And the best deck for free to play is Royal Giant Cycle. This deck has stood the test of time, which is why it's number 1. This deck has great outplay potential because the Fisherman can pull units away from the RG, letting it connect on the tower. The Fisherman can also pull units, waveform your towers, and even activate King Tower for you. The Hunter and Royal Ghost are also great support cards, so use them wisely. In double elixir, drop your Royal Giant at the back and then cycle to another one. If you can get 2 on the map, it will overwhelm your opponent and you will take towers. The first tip is to save your Hunter. The Hunter is your only air card, so don't use him unless you absolutely have to, or your opponent can punish. The second tip is to spread out your support troops. This will prevent spell value and potentially save your push. Place your Fisherman further back, while your Ghost or Hunter supports from up close. But before you play these decks, you need to understand the archetype for them, so click here to see an in-depth guide of every archetype in Clash Royale.